We are at a critical time where Republicans need to have the courage to push forward the SAVE Act to save America, to make sure that our elections are free and fair, that we never get overrun with 20 million illegal immigrants infiltrating our jobs, taking our money, taking over the Black community, taking over every aspect of our life. To help me go through this and more, I have Vince Ellison. Vince, thank you for joining me.
It's my pleasure, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. I always love having you on. It was so awesome to meet you at the Charlie Kirk event down in Phoenix.
Yeah, man, that's an awesome event. And as I said to you before, it was great seeing you also in person, but seeing your beautiful wife, that's why you keep that smile on your face. I can understand it now.
Well, let's jump into these big stories. The first one I want to go through is the need to pass the SAVE Act. Right now, what we're seeing is 76% of Black voters want voter ID. 85% of white voters, excuse me, 82% of Latino. When you break it down by the two-party system, 95% of Republicans say we absolutely need to show ID, and 71% of Democrats say we need to show ID. How important, in your estimation, is it for us to have this SAVE Act so that we know that our elections are free and fair?
Well, it's common sense, isn't it? The Democrats understand that they've been stealing elections ever since the Civil War. They kept Abraham Lincoln off of the ballot. They wouldn't even allow the people down south to vote for him in the election of 1860. And they've been stealing elections ever since. You can go back to the Jim Crow era. After they passed the 13th Amendment allowing Black men to vote, Democrats used the Ku Klux Klan. They used terror. They had this thing called the Mississippi and the South Carolina plan, where they had it written out. Mississippi had 2 times more Black men than white men. South Carolina had 3 times more. So Mississippi and South Carolina got a plan. And they said, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we control the Black vote, either through terror, through violence, or through murder. It's actually written down. Your viewers can look it up. It's called the South Carolina and the Mississippi plan. And then after that, they disenfranchised Black people down south for 100 years. So this is why when people say it was a big switch, I tell them it couldn't have been a big switch because Black people weren't voting. Where were they switching from? The Republican Party did not exist. If you were a Republican down south, they killed you. And so then finally, after Black people started voting, and of course they started voting for the Democratic Party, Black Democrats started doing the same thing that the white Democrats had been doing before. They learned from their masters how to control elections by stealing, by bribery, by a bottle of liquor and a pork chop sandwich, ballot harvesting, you name it. They are worse than their predecessors. They understood intimidation. They understand how to use the Black preacher, how to do sold to the polls, and one thing they do not want, they don't want voter ID. Because if they get voter ID, they can't do the mail-in ballots. They can't take the homeless guy that has no ID and have him vote. They can't take the illegal and have him vote. Probably about 1/3 of their voting block will be gone. On election day, you should see it. Man, they're at the homeless shelters. They are going to the Hispanic organizations. They are going to bus stops. They're going to churches. Anywhere they can get votes, they are getting them. They're paying people. These people are voting. They're not showing any ID. And that's how they win, especially in places like Detroit, Atlanta, Charlotte, Philadelphia. That's how they win. They cheat and they know it.
Well, even within the Somali community, they were saying that there's entire high-rise complexes. Everyone in there is from Somalia. They all live on government assistance, and they force them all to vote for whoever they choose. Let me show you what President Trump said about this, because he said, who wouldn't want voter ID? And then he tells you who doesn't.
And we should have voter ID, by the way. We should have a lot of the things that I think everybody wants to see. Who would not want voter ID? Only somebody that wants to cheat. Think of it. We don't have voter ID. and the Democrats don't want it. And the reason they don't want it because they want to cheat, because there's no reason in the world. And I love that debate, Lindsay. I love saying, well, why don't you want voter ID? And you watch them say, I don't know. I just made them vote. Then it's a terrible thing. So,
all right. So you brought up a really great point. You know, they use a lot of people that refuse to get an ID. They use a lot of illegal immigrants. They even use the homeless. They'll offer them gift cards, free meals, pork chop sandwich. Yeah. And so they're able to collectively bring in tens of thousands of ballots that would otherwise not be able to vote because of that. But what do you think of President Trump saying the only reason that you wouldn't pass the SAVE Act and use ID is to cheat?
Well, he's correct. And this is nothing new. The Democrats have been doing it for years. A lot of times, but it happened because the Republican Party in the 90s decided to pull out the Black communities and not even fight for the Black vote any longer. It was a deal that Lee Atwater made in the 1990s when they started doing the Black districts and whatnot. But they made a deal with the Black Democrats if they voted for their redistricting plan, that they would pull out the Black communities and let the Black Democrats have those communities. And they did that, and they all turned into Marxist, socialist hellholes. Detroit, Chicago, LA, Philadelphia, everywhere you had a large Black population just went to nothing. And it happened because Black Democrats, and I wrote my first book on this called The Iron Triangle, most Black preachers, most Black politicians, and most Black civil rights workers are basically socialists. And their main goal is to use the federal government to give people in the Black community handouts so that these Black communities, these Black people will get addicted to government. And when they get addicted to government, they have to keep electing these Democrats so that they can keep getting the free stuff that they've been getting. They're wards of the state. And there are no jobs there. There's no industry there. All you have there are Section 8 housing, SNAP benefits, all types of Medicaid, public schools, drugs on the street, prostitution, have a bunch of illegals, and it's really a hellscape. Nobody wants to live there. As soon as anyone gets a little bit of money, they get out. But one thing is a constant. The Black preacher, the Black politician, and the Black civil rights worker, they keep in power. They remain powerful. And what's happened here is that this chicanery in these Black communities have gotten so bad that they've had the ability now to sway statewide elections. And now it's a problem because Trump lost in 2020 by a total of 7 states, like 47,000 votes. And the margins were in these large Black cities. And you had people like, you saw the federal government just went down to Fulton County, Georgia. Yeah, they went down there in order to pull the ballots to see how they cheated down there so that Trump could lose Georgia by about 11,000 votes. They're finding that these people are cheating to such an extreme in the inner cities that it cannot be explained any longer. And now the federal government has gotten involved. They got the right one, Donald Trump, and he's going to put a stop to it.
Yeah, he is. Of course, you've got the Democrats using the race card more than ever. Let me show you what Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said about if the Republicans dare pass this, it just proves one thing. Watch this.
Jess, there's a new Pew Research poll that 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. And I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country. And when the American people hear what exactly it is doing and what its intent is doing, they're going to be against it as well.
I think most people understand what voter ID is, and they don't seem to be against it. 95% of Republicans want it. 71% say that they want it on the Democrat side. So what is Jim Crow? Is this a Republican creation to suppress black people, or what is Jim Crow?
Jim Crow is a system set up by the Democratic Party designed to make sure that black people stayed in their place so they could utilize them in the way that they wanted to utilize them. And that's what they're doing right now. Jim Crow was designed to make sure that black people stayed ignorant, make sure they stayed afraid, make sure that they stayed intimidated, and make sure they stayed on the Democratic Party plantation. That's Jim Crow. And if you want to talk about what Jim Crow really was, it was fixing elections in the Democratic Party's favor down south. They wanted to make sure that they won. And they wanted to make sure that the black people that they liked voted. They used all type of tactics. They used poll taxes. They used all types of literacy tests. They used intimidation, but they won. And they're doing the same thing again. They want to make sure, the Democrats want to make sure that they win. And they have a Jim Crow system set up in every inner city. What is that Jim Crow system? Ballot harvesting, bottled liquor and a pork chop sandwich, souls to the polls, bribing, intimidation. Whatever it takes to win, they do it. And what they're trying to do now is throw the rock and hide the hand. They want you to actually believe that if you have a legitimate election, that somehow or another that's against black people. It's amazing how they had no problem telling everybody to show some type of ID when you had to get your COVID shot, and when you had to if you had to wear the mask and all this type of stuff. They didn't have a problem telling you to show your ID to prove that you had COVID, your COVID shot, or you couldn't get into a restaurant, or you couldn't get on an airplane, or you couldn't go here or there. You have to show your ID for that. But if it's an ID to vote, no, they don't want you to do that. These people are the worst people that have ever walked the face of the earth. They know how they win these elections. They know they cheat. They know they steal. They know they lie. And just like President Trump said, why would you not want someone to show an ID before they vote? You don't want them to do it because you want to cheat.
So let me understand this. You're telling me that Jim Crow is a Democrat invention, not a Republican invention?
Oh, yeah, it's a Democrat invention. After the election of 1877, it was found that most black people down south had voted for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party took the whole South in the election of 1877. There was an election between a gentleman by the name of Hayes from Ohio and a guy by the name of Tilden from the state of New York. Tilden ran on revoking the 13th Amendment and putting slavery back. Yeah, he actually ran on that. And so when all the votes were tallied, all the Confederate states went for Tilden. This was interesting since most of the people voting down south were black. South Carolina had 3 times more black men than white men. South Carolina went Democrat. Mississippi had 2 times more white men than black men. Mississippi went Democrat. Why? The Mississippi plan and the South Carolina plan. They used intimidation, they used bribery, and they used murder to make sure that they subdue the black population. But bullies have always done such things. I don't so much blame the bully. I blame the coward for allowing the bully to do it. I blame the black men of the South for not standing up and fighting for their freedom back in those days. But that's not here nor there. Today, the same thing is happening. The Democratic Party controls the black community because black men are cowards. They don't want to take care of their children. They don't want to stand up. They don't want to tell them, no, I'm a free man. You can't bribe me to vote. You can't intimidate me into voting. You can't lie to me and make me vote to have my children murdered, and to vote against school choice, and to vote to have my guns taken away, and to vote allow these illegals to come in and intimidate my whole community. You can't do that. So if this is happening, it's by the permission of the black community, but it's also the Democratic Party and evil institution that's pressing it. They all stand hand in hand. A community of the people that are elected reflect the values and the mores of the community that they represent. And right now, the black church has destroyed the black community. The civil rights movement destroyed the black community. Martin Luther King Jr., who we're now finding out, was nothing more but a liar an apostate, a hoe chaser. He was an anti-Christian bigot. Come to find out from his own papers at Stanford University that he didn't believe in the deity of Christ. He didn't believe in hell. He didn't believe in the virgin birth. He didn't believe in the resurrection. He didn't believe in any of these things. How can you be a Christian if you don't believe in those things? We come to find out that he plagiarized his doctorate at Boston University. He had plagiarized it, so he was a fake doctor. Come to find out he was the first recipient of the Margaret Sanger Award in 1965. So now that we're having close to 1 million black babies aborted every year, and we've had 20 million aborted since 1972, his fingerprints were all on it. This was a Marxist movement. Come to find out that his handler was Stanley Levinson, the #1 communist in America. The people that wrote his speeches were Stanley Levinson, Bayard Rustin, and Clarence Jones, all three Marxists. Come to find out that the guy that ran the SELC, his name was Hunter Pitts O'Dell, a communist. Yes, this was a communist movement. They've taken their communism and they moved it into the black community. The black community is now mostly a Marxist community. They did a poll about a year ago, and they asked segments of the American population their views on socialism. The black community was the only community in America that gave socialism over 50% approval rating. Over 60% of black Americans found socialism in a positive way. Why? The civil rights movement, black politicians, the Iron Triangle, black preachers, the social gospel, this lie. And the Democratic Party is nothing more than a Marxist, evil, anti-Christian institution. And I hope we get this passed so we can run them out of power.
Wow. U.S. debt is racing towards $39 trillion, and that pressure doesn't just sit around in Washington, D.C. It lands hard on your wallet as the same amount of dollars chase the same amount of goods, slowly eroding what each dollar can buy. Unlike paper and pixels, gold and silver can't be printed or created digitally. For centuries, when currencies were under strain, people paid attention to tangible assets they could hold in their hand. This isn't about panic. It's about understanding long-term forces that can quietly shape purchasing power. Ask yourself one question. 20 years from now, what will buy more, gold or the US dollar? You already know the answer. If you've ever held gold or silver, you see that patience pays off, and that it will help you dramatically outpace inflation and keep your buying power. The last thing you want to do is put money away and then down the road, it buys less and less. If you want to learn more about gold and silver, Monetary Gold has a complimentary gold and silver guide. Visit StephenLovesGold.com or call 800-608-1770 to request a free guide today. You know, I got thinking, once they got rid of Jim Crow, this Democrat invention, isn't that interesting that the South became red?
Yes.
And the people wanted freedom. They wanted entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
Now you think about Florida, you think about Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, they're all red. They're all red with, little pockets of blue. But now you've got them saying, this is Jim Crow 2.0. Now, of course, they say that because it rhymes and it's catchy, but they're trying to impose it while saying that Republicans are trying to impose it. Let me show you a video where Chuck Schumer, he's not with the mainstream media, running cover for him, pretending like he has good ideas. He's out with the general public, and they ask him, and he's literally silent on it. Watch this.
Leader Schumer, you recently called the SAVE Act Jim Crow. Can you explain how it's Jim Crow to require an ID to vote in elections, to drive a car, to purchase alcohol, go to the DMV? Any comment on that?
Leader Schumer, you said you're on the same page as.
What do you think? Should we restore normal order in the Senate and actually go back to the standing filibuster?
You said that you're sending a proposal over there.
Leader Schumer.
Silent. Once he gets out of that protected, kiddie swimming pool area, he doesn't have his floaties on. He's completely silent because he knows Jim Crow 2.0 is a lie.
Yes.
He knows that even within his own party, 7 out of 10 human beings that say, I'm a Democrat, say we have to have voter ID. We have to have a closed border. We have to have free and fair elections. Within the Black community, the Hispanic community, the Asian community, the white community, overwhelmingly, they want this. So Democrats are just built on a house of, it's not even a house of cards. It's a house of lies.
Yes. See, let me give your people a tale. Whenever you hear a Democrat scream racism, that means he's lying. He's guilty. That is his last bastion of hope. Racism. If you catch a Black Democrat with 30 keys of cocaine in the trunk of his car, he's going to holler racism. If you catch him with dead bodies in his house, he's going to scream racism. If you catch him smoking crack in the bedroom with his mistress like Marion Barry was, he's going to scream racism. Jesse Jackson screamed racism. Al Sharpton screamed racism. Everybody out there who's a Democrat, even white Democrats, scream racism. Because they believe that, you know, America they've conditioned us to recoil at the word. Nobody wants to be called a racist in the United States of America. But I think it is losing its bite because we hear it so often, it just has no effect on us any longer. We know we're not racist. To say that you want something done correctly or done right does not mean you are racist. We believe these elections are rigged. Matter of fact, I know they are. When you go into places like Detroit, when you go into places like Atlanta, New York City, Chicago, these people are not voting for these politicians. Believe me when I tell you, Baltimore is not voting for the people who are up there. These people rigged these elections. They fixed these elections. The federal government is not there. Republicans have no reason to be there. So if you have a Republican running in these areas, most of these guys, God bless them, they don't have any funding. They have no money. They have no organization. They have no poll watchers. They have no one to sit at these polls and ensure that these elections are being run correctly. You have Democrats watching Democrats. That's like Dracula watching a blood bank. These people are not going to do right. They are criminals watching criminals. And how do you know this is true? Look at where they rule. You're selling $20 billion worth of crack cocaine in these areas. You don't sell that type of money and have that money up under a mattress. You can't sell that type of dope without the police knowing about it. Every person on the street can tell you who the drug dealer is. Little 7-year-old child walk up to, hey man, who the one selling the dope? Right there, that's a dope house. Everybody knows. They know who the prostitutes are. They know who sell the guns. Everyone knows. It is a crime syndicate, and they allow these people to do this in these inner cities because, as the Republicans say, if this is what you want, this is what you get. This, if you're electing these people, you see this is no good, you see this is a hellscape, fine. If this is what you want, continue it. Because I wouldn't live amongst them. I have nothing in common with them whatsoever.
Wow. Somebody asked AI to generate an image of Democrats using racism in 2026. Here it is. Don't you die on me. We still need you. And it's the Democrats giving CPR to racism. You know, like you said, though, that this is losing its bite. I get called racist on the internet all the time, even though, to my knowledge, I've never said anything remotely close to a racist comment. But yeah, it's a card that they have overplayed, a hand that they have overplayed. Let me just in our final minutes here, you've brought up Georgia, you've brought up rigged elections. Within the last week, President Trump shocked the country when the FBI got permission from a judge to go in and confiscate the voting machines, the ballots, the emails, everything about the 2020 election. Now it's been announced that President Trump has assigned Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard to oversee the elections, make sure that they are free and fair, and that there's no international, messing around. Listen to this.
Tulsi Gabbard has been tapped by the President of the United States to oversee the sanctity and the security of our American elections. She's working directly alongside the the FBI director, Kash Patel. This is a coordinated whole of government effort to ensure that our elections, again, are fair and transparent moving forward. I don't see anything wrong with the president tasking a cabinet member to pursue an issue that most people want to see solved. Maybe you don't, but I know many Americans do want to make sure our elections are protected, and that's what Tulsi Gabbard is focused on doing.
What are your thoughts on the president assigning the director of national intelligence to make sure there's no international interference and no cheating in the elections?
Look, when Trump saw how they used all that Russiagate crap against him, the Steele dossier, how you had Ukraine and everybody involved in his impeachment, when he saw how they tried to say that Russia helped him steal an election, Trump knows that there's much more involved in this than just a bunch of black Democrats down in Georgia, okay? This is an international conspiracy to make sure that conservatives and Republicans stay out of power, because this leftist liberal agenda is a worldwide conspiracy from Eastern Europe to America. Barack Obama was part of it. All the crazy stuff they're doing in Europe with all the open borders, with the climate change, with abortion, with suppressing the rights of people to have free speech and censorship. All of this started happening all at the same time. All of the West started colluding together to use their power to spread these ideals all over the world, from Canada to Germany, all over Europe. And then all of a sudden, a monkey wrench came into their plan, and it was Donald Trump. And they have been working hand in glove ever since to make sure this man never gets back in power again. Trump knows he won those elections. It's too easy to just leave this alone. But he has to prove to the American people who the Democratic Party is. And it starts in Georgia. They're going to show that the Democratic Party was connected to foreign nations to ensure that the President of the United States of America remains a puppet of the West, not of the United States of America, of the West. Joe Biden and Ms. Harris were just puppets of George Soros, this communist, Marxist, socialist conspiracy all over the West, to do four basic things. Make sure you have climate change. Make sure that you have the right to have an abortion up to the 9th month. Make sure that you have open borders. Then make sure that you take away the right for people to freely express and practice their religion, especially Christianity. They hate Christians. They want us all dead. Donald Trump comes in. He stops this. They do everything they can. They put like 1,000 charges on this man to try to stop him. But the American people saw through it. And when they saw through it, they gave Donald Trump permission to pull the rug from up under these liars and these traitors and to put them exactly where they're supposed to be. This is the Confederacy reborn. This was a plan to take over the most powerful country in the world and hook it up with a bunch of miscreants and liars and perverts from over there across the ocean. We put a stop to it. This is a counter to everything they've done. We have stopped them. And now we're going to show the world who they are. So it starts in Fulton County. And after Fulton County, we're going to go to Maricopa County. And we're going to go up to Pennsylvania. And we're going to prove who they are. A bunch of liars, perverts, psychopaths, and anti-Christian bigots. And it's going to be a beautiful day when America finally sees who these people are.
I want to point out something interesting. Supposedly, Trump lost Georgia by 11,779 votes.
Yes.
And then just 4 years later, where he's literally indicted, arrested, and mugshot and on trial for RICO charges, he wins it by 125,000 votes. So a 10x increase on votes. Give me a break.
There it is. Statistics show that's impossible.
Yeah.
You don't have an ebb and flow like that within a 4-year period. You know, and people that do this for a living, they're looking at this and they say, no, this is an impossibility. A complete and utter, it's no way in the heck Joe Biden got 10 million more votes in America than the great Barack Obama. No way. But they say he did. So they're taking a look at all of this now. And of course, we got to always remember, a federal judge signed off on that search warrant. So he had to have seen some type of probable cause. Federal judges just don't sign off on search warrants for no apparent reason. So to have an FBI office go and raid a local voting facility is a big deal. The federal judge will have had to see something that really gave him pause to put his name on that order and allow that raid to happen.
Yeah. Let me end with this. This is Steve Bannon over on the War Room. He talked about one of the anomalies that really stood out to him. Let me show that to you and the audience.
There had been 4.7 million ballots, which I think was a record in Georgia. He says this. There were, Trump was up at that time, this is the morning after, by 103,000 ballots. We had Richard Barris and others coming on that had done precinct by precinct analysis. And they said, it's only 100, Trump's up by 103, and there are only 94,000 ballots uncounted. And it is impossible, mathematically impossible for Biden to win. And what happened? All of a sudden, miraculously, these mail-in ballots, by the way, mail-in ballots had to be there by the close of the polls. I think it's 7 Eastern Standard Time on the 3rd, or they didn't count. And all of a sudden, miraculously, like the loaves and the fishes, these ballots start showing up, 300,000. It turns a total fiasco. Cleta Mitchell and a team walk through this thing in excruciating detail. In fact, one of the young men on the team was on Steve Stern's call yesterday. And so when they say, oh, it's been checked 10 times, only 9 people. No, that is a bald-faced lie. We're talking about the mail-in ballots. They know exactly what we're talking about. We haven't even gotten to the machines yet with the tapes and all that. That's why Tulsi Gabbard was down there when the stuff was seized. And we already know that the tapes, many of the tapes have been fouled.
Wow. You know what? I've been in politics a long time. I called my brother about 2 days before the election, and I told him, I'll tell you what's going to happen. And you can talk to him, he'll tell you this, Stephen. I said, the night of the election in Georgia, this is what's going to happen. About 11 o'clock, every county in Georgia is going to have all of his votes in. You're going to look at Fulton County, and about 11 o'clock, he's going to have about maybe 10, 11, 12% of his votes in. And then they're going to call Fulton County, and Fulton County is going to say, how many votes do you need for the Democrats to win? And Fulton County is going to make up the margin. Fulton County is going to wait to see what every other county has done. And whatever is needed for the Democrats to win, Fulton County is going to produce it. Sure enough, on election night, I'm sitting there watching it. And, you know, everything's crazy on election night, right? And they show Georgia, and I see every county has 99% of the vote in. I said, I look at Fulton County at 11%. And then Marvin called me, he said, man, look, you called it. I said, I told you they're stealing it tonight. They're going to steal it. I told them 2 days before, I said, they're going to steal it. It's no way Trump wins. And he says, I said, they're going to steal it. They're going to steal it in Atlanta. They're going to steal it in Maricopa County. They're going to steal it in Philadelphia and in Detroit and in Milwaukee and in Charlotte. And I told them the cities they were going to steal it. Why? Because I've seen them do it too many times before. They will make up the margin that they need. If it's within 1%, maybe close to 2%. If it's in a margin of 1 or 2%, they can make up what they need in these inner cities, and there's nobody there to check. And if they need 10,000 votes, they'll find them. If they need 10,000 in Michigan, they'll find them in Detroit. If they need 10,000 in Pennsylvania, they'll find them in South Philadelphia. If they need 10,000 in Georgia, they'll find it down in Atlanta. That's the game they play. It's the game they've always played. And until they start going into these inner cities and putting people at every one of these places where they vote, and every place where they count, this is going to continue.
Yeah, I just it's so obvious that there was cheating. I mean, think about this, for example. So Trump wins 2016 by 211,000 votes. Suddenly it swings to Joe Biden, right? A crazy old white guy that had not really done much for anybody. And he supposedly wins by less than 12,000. Then you bring in Kamala Harris, one of the most educated, black, most articulate women in the Democrat Party, and she loses by 125,000. None of it makes any sense.
None of it. You're exactly right. None of it makes any sense. And that's why they're down there now investigating this, because if you can do this to Donald Trump, you can do this to anyone in America. They're coming back. They're not finished. And the next person that they get to run for president on our side might not be as tough as Donald Trump. Let's admit it. They put that man through a hell. Most people could not have survived it. They put him on trial. They tried to impeach him. They stole elections from him. I mean, for 8 years, Donald Trump has gone, he's walked through the fires of hell. And now he's out for revenge. He's John Wick, man. He says, I'm going to get every last one of them that put me and my family through this. And also, Donald Trump knows this. He knows that when he's out, if he hasn't taken all of these dirty Democrats out, they're coming for his family. He knows that. He knows they're coming for Barron. They're coming for his children, just like they came for him. He knows it. If they ever get in power again, it's going to be like the Romanovs in Russia. They're coming for his family. We know it. He knows it. So the only way he can protect his family is he got to make sure that these people go to jail.
Yeah. Oof. President Donald John Wick Trump. I like that.
If you make start using that, John Wick Trump, that's pretty good.
Donald John Wick Trump. I'm crafting a cool little T-shirt in my mind right now. So.
Oh yeah, man, that's cool. You need to put that. I might beat you to it, man.
Vince, always good to talk to you. You bring such a great perspective and insight. From being involved in law enforcement and the prison system to then just helping educate people on conservative values, Christian values. You're such a gem of a human. I'm going to put a direct link down below so that people can easily find your YouTube channel. Go check it out. Follow Vince online. We'll have you on again in the future. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Stephen, thank you so very much, man. You do great work, and I always enjoy your show. You have a great audience.
Well, thank you so much.